Welcome to this crash course on one of the world's most complicated conflicts. We're talking, of course, about Israel and Palestine. So, where do we even begin? This story starts a long time ago, way back in the biblical days. We're talking about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the whole gang's here. This land, considered holy by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, is where their stories unfolded. Enter the Romans, stage left, with their togas and their taste for conquest. They swept through the region, eventually renaming it Palestine. They clashed with the Jewish population, leading to revolts and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. Fast forward a few centuries, and the Roman Empire is looking about as lively as a week-old lettuce. Christianity, once persecuted, is now dominant, and Palestine becomes a major pilgrimage site. Think of it as the ancient world's Disneyland, but with more incense. In the 7th century, a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula, Islam. The Islamic Empire expanded rapidly, incorporating Palestine. Jerusalem, holy to Jews and Christians, also became sacred to Muslims. 3 major religions, all vying for the same land. What could go wrong? The Crusades. A chaotic and bloody period, marked by battles and religious intolerance. Okay, let's fast forward again, this time to the 19th century. Europe is a hot mess of nationalism, industrialization, and anti-Semitism. Jewish communities, facing discrimination and persecution, begin to dream of a homeland of their own. Enter Zionism, a movement advocating for the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine, their ancestral homeland. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Empire, which had ruled over Palestine for centuries, is on its last legs. It's like watching a once mighty empire try to run a marathon after forgetting to train and wearing Crocs. They're not doing so great. Then, World War I explodes, throwing the entire world into chaos. The Ottoman Empire, foolishly backing the losing side, collapses, and Palestine, along with other Ottoman territories, falls under the control of the victorious Allied powers. And who should emerge as a major player in this post-war scramble for land? Great Britain, of course. Always eager to add a few more stamps to their imperial collection, they take control of Palestine, promising both Jews and Arabs their own independent states. Spoiler alert, it doesn't quite work out that way. Britain, stuck in Palestine like a guest who overstayed their welcome. They're juggling the demands of Jewish and Arab communities, both promised independence. Tensions rise with increased Jewish immigration, fueled by the Holocaust. Facing unrest, the British hand over the issue to the United Nations. The UN proposes dividing Palestine into 2 states, one Jewish, one Arab. The Jews accept the plan. The Arabs reject it outright. In 1948, as the British leave, war erupts. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War was a brutal conflict. Israel emerged victorious, securing independence and expanding territory. Over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees. A victory for Israel, but a tragedy for Palestine. Section 5. A nation forged in conflict. The early years of Israel. The newly established State of Israel, surrounded by hostile neighbors, found itself in a constant state of conflict and insecurity. The 1956 Suez Crisis, the 1967 Six-Day War, the 1973 Yom Kippur War. These conflicts, while solidifying Israel's military dominance, also deepened the cycle of violence and mistrust in the region. Within Israel, the influx of Jewish immigrants from around the world created a vibrant, multicultural society, but also one grappling with internal divisions and the challenges of building a nation from scratch. The Palestinian refugees, scattered across the Middle East, remained a potent symbol of the unresolved conflict, their plight a constant reminder of the human cost of war. 6 days that shook the Middle East, the 1967 war and its aftermath. The 1967 Six-Day War was a watershed moment in the conflict. A lightning-fast conflict that reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. In a matter of days, Israel achieved a stunning victory, capturing the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. It was a decisive military triumph, but it also marked the beginning of Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories, an occupation that continues to this day. The war had profound consequences for both sides. Israel, now in control of territories with large Palestinian populations, faced the dilemma of what to do with these newly acquired lands and their inhabitants. The Palestinians, meanwhile, found themselves living under Israeli military rule, their dreams of an independent state seemingly more distant than ever. The aftermath of the 1967 war saw the rise of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, under the leadership of Yasser Arafat. The PLO, initially committed to armed struggle against Israel, would later play a key role in peace negotiations, albeit with mixed results. Section 7. The rise of Palestinian resistance, from intifadas to Hamas. The Palestinian struggle for self-determination took many forms, from diplomatic efforts to armed resistance. The first intifada, which erupted in 1987, was a mass uprising against Israeli occupation, a spontaneous outpouring of frustration and anger that caught Israel off guard. The second intifada, which began in 2000, was a more violent affair, marked by suicide bombings and Israeli military reprisals. The rise of Hamas, a Palestinian Islamist group opposed to Israel's existence, added another layer of complexity to the conflict. Hamas's control of the Gaza Strip, which it seized from the Palestinian Authority in 2007, further divided the Palestinian territories and complicated efforts to achieve a negotiated settlement. Section 8. Walls and checkpoints. Life under occupation. For Palestinians living in the West Bank and Gaza, daily life is often defined by the realities of Israeli occupation. Military checkpoints, movement restrictions, and the expansion of Israeli settlements have created a fragmented and unequal reality, fueling resentment and despair. The construction of the Israeli West Bank barrier, while presented by Israel as a security measure, has been condemned by Palestinians and international observers as a land grab, separating Palestinian communities from each other and from their agricultural lands. The situation in Gaza, under Israeli blockade since 2007, is even more dire, with high levels of poverty, unemployment, and limited access to basic necessities. Section 9. A world divided. International perspectives and failed peace efforts. The Israel-Palestine conflict has long been a source of international tension and diplomatic deadlock. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has often played the role of mediator, but its unwavering support for Israel has drawn criticism from the Arab world and beyond. Numerous peace initiatives, from the Camp David Accords in 1978 to the Oslo Accords in the 1990s, have failed to deliver a lasting solution. The two-state solution, once seen as the most viable path to peace, has become increasingly elusive, with the expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank making the creation of a contiguous and viable Palestinian state ever more challenging. The international community remains divided on how to resolve the conflict, with some countries supporting a two-state solution, others advocating for a single, binational state, and still others urging a more assertive approach to pressure Israel to end its occupation. The lack of a unified international response has only served to perpetuate the status quo, with both sides seemingly locked in a perpetual cycle of violence and mistrust. Section 10. The long road ahead. Hope, despair, and the search for a lasting solution. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and enduring tragedy, one with no easy answers or quick fixes. Decades of violence, mistrust, and failed diplomacy have left both sides deeply scarred, their narratives often defined by suffering and victimhood. Yet, even in the darkest of times, glimmers of hope remain. Civil society organizations on both sides continue to work tirelessly to bridge divides, promote dialogue, and build a future based on coexistence and mutual respect. Ordinary people, weary of conflict and yearning for peace, dare to dream of a different reality for their children and grandchildren. The road to peace will be long and arduous, fraught with obstacles and setbacks. But the alternative, another generation condemned to a life of conflict and violence, is simply unacceptable. Understanding the historical roots of the conflict, acknowledging the grievances of both sides, and fostering empathy and understanding are essential first steps towards breaking the cycle of hatred and achieving a just and lasting peace. Only then can the promise of a shared future, free from fear and oppression, become a reality for both Israelis and Palestinians. What's up, everyone? Glad you tuned in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Your support means the world. Stay awesome and see you next time.